France, the land of croissants, revolutions, and a world-class talent for saying, nope, we're not doing that. And you know what? That's a skill more countries should have picked up before diving headfirst into certain wars that we're still pretending were a good idea. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Iraq. But first, let's take a quick stroll through French history, because before they started making us feel bad about our global blunders, they were busy reinventing rebellion. So, buckle up. Or don't. It's France. They'd prefer you didn't. Let's kick things off in medieval France, a time when kings named Louis ran the show, peasants revolted by occasionally not dying of plague, and the French monarchy was just one long, slow train wreck. Seriously, it was like a medieval soap opera where everyone's name was Louis, and every episode ended in either a battle or a bread shortage. Eventually, the people got tired of all the Louises and decided to solve their problems the French way, by chopping heads off like they were popping the cork on a fine bottle of Bordeaux. The French Revolution was the original cancel culture, except instead of losing your Twitter account, you lost your head. Thousands of people got their one-way ticket to the afterlife, including King Louis the whatever number we're up to. Ah yes, the guillotine. Proof that when France cancels you, they really cancel you. After that, enter Napoleon, the man with the world's biggest hat and even bigger ego. His plan? Conquer all of Europe. And like most plans that start with take over everything, it didn't end well. He was basically the George W. Bush of the 19th century, charging into places he had no business being, overestimating his own genius, and, well, getting his backside handed to him. Waterloo was basically the 1800s version of Iraq, overhyped, underplanned, and ended with a whole lot of people saying, "What were we even doing here?" Fast forward through some art, wine, and an unfortunate occupation by the Nazis, no one saw that coming, and we land in post-World War II France. After all that drama, France developed a healthy skepticism of anyone who said, "Hey, how about another war?" And that brings us to 2003. The world was revving up for the Iraq War because, weapons of mass destruction and freedom and whatever buzzwords they threw out to make it sound like a good idea. And France? Oh, France stood up in front of the whole world and said, "Non, merci. We're not buying this." While the U.S. was busy cooking up some fairy tale about WMDs and oil, liberation, France had the audacity to ask, "Wait, are we sure about this? Because last time we got into a war on a whim, Napoleon ended up freezing to death in Russia, and we're still traumatized." The backlash was swift. America threw a hissy fit, like a teenager who just got told they couldn't borrow the car. How dare France question our obviously flawless plan to invade a country on questionable evidence? In response, we did the most mature thing possible, renamed French fries to freedom fries. That'll show 'em. Because when your foreign policy is a disaster, the next logical step is to take it out on innocent potatoes. But here's the thing. Folks, France was right. They took one look at our gung-ho, yee-haw attitude toward Iraq and said, "We've seen this movie before and it doesn't end well." They knew it was a bad idea, just like how they knew Napoleon's Moscow vacation was going to be a disaster. France wasn't being cowardly, they were being smart. Meanwhile, the rest of the world bought tickets to a war that was basically the world's longest, most expensive dumpster fire. Spoiler alert, no weapons of mass destruction were found, and the region didn't magically turn into a democracy overnight. Who could have guessed? And while the U.S. and its allies were busy racking up debt, casualties, and enough bad press to fuel the next 10 generations of anti-Western sentiment, France was over here sipping wine, shrugging, and saying, "Told you so." Because that's the thing about France. They've mastered the art of watching the world burn and somehow remaining unbothered. It's like they have a sixth sense for spotting disasters and saying, "Yeah, we're going to sit this one out." So, while America was getting bogged down in a quagmire of its own making, France kept on doing what they do best, living their best life, avoiding unnecessary conflicts, and maybe even laughing a little at how ridiculous the whole thing was. And remember, while we were renaming fried potatoes, France was over here not getting bogged down in an endless war based on false pretenses, because they had the wisdom to ask one simple question. What's the exit plan? Something we apparently forgot to figure out before diving headfirst into a geopolitical black hole. So here's to France, the country that knew better than to follow us into Iraq, the country that taught the world to love revolution, and the country that decided, we'll take the wine, but keep your freedom fries. Next time someone asks if you want to go to war without a plan, channel your inner Frenchman and say, non merci. Because if there's one thing we can all learn from France, it's that sometimes the smartest thing to do is sit back, sip your wine, and let someone else clean up the mess. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some freedom fries to finish. Or, as the French call them, a bad idea wrapped in salt and regret.